Good afternoon and welcome candidates and guests to meet the candidates for the Wahpeton Mayoral race. First off, we'd like to thank our sponsors for providing to make this live stream possible. Redemption Construction, Red River Valley and Western Railroad, OK Tire, Wahpeton, Healing Arts Chiropractic, Vaderstad, Wahpeton Breckenridge Chamber, and Three Border Sports Network. Our candidates today are Steve Dale, Jason Goltz, Nick Nelson, and Brett Lambert. Each candidate will be given a 3-minute opportunity to introduce themselves with a brief background of who they are, with their qualifications, and how each has been in Wahpeton, how long each has been in Wahpeton. Then we will have a structured question asked each candidate with a strict 3-minute limit, and you will be given a 30-second warning card. And that'll be in the lovely lady back there in the black dress. After the structured questions, we will take a brief break, so you can have a bathroom break or whatever you need. And then we will come back with questions from the audience. And the audience is directed to go to the mic on the left, or my left, your right. We ask all questions be related to topics regarding policy or procedures. No personal attacks will be allowed, and inappropriate questions will be dismissed. This forum is scheduled to end at 7 o'clock promptly, and no further questions will be allowed after that. So, with that, we will start on my right, and please introduce yourself and list your qualifications and how long you've been in town.
I'm Steve Dale. I've been a lifelong resident. I served over 20 years on the Wahpeton Fire Department. I was first elected in 2010 to represent Ward 1 on the south side. Finished out the previous mayor's term and was elected to the mayor's job in 2018.
Good. Okay. Jason?
Jason Goltz. I grew up on a small farm by Havana, North Dakota, and I joined the Navy right out of high school, served on a nuclear submarine. I earned a 4-year degree from NDSU, and then later on I joined the Army National Guard. I did a tour of Iraq and went to West Africa twice, and I earned an MBA from the University of Mary. I have a lot of experience in government. I have testified at the legislature for a bill which I authored and went through the administrative rules process as well. I've worked as county extension agent here, so I have experience at the county level, and I'm currently serving on the city council and recently went through the process for revising our ordinance for licensing. I've been in town since 2011, married with 2 children. Sebastian is 10, Paul is 8. You've probably seen him at the meetings, and that's about it, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Nick?
Thank you. Hello, I'm Nicholas Nelson. Most people call me Nick. You can call me Nick. I was born and raised in Wahpeton, went to Bemidji State University for 4 years, received my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, went to law school at UND. After that, got my law degree, came back to North Dakota, opened my law practice. So besides for my hiatus for my education, I've always been a proud person from Wahpeton. I was a Husky. I played hockey. I played for the BW Blades, big, proud Blade. My beautiful wife is here. She's a nurse in the community. She's from Foreman, and it'll be our 4-year anniversary next week. And my qualifications are that my education in the law made me qualified. My experience as an attorney, I understand with my education what we can do in the city of Wahpeton and what we can't do. We have a home rule charter. There's a lot we can do with that. There's certainly restrictions, but there's a lot we can do with a home rule charter. So my education makes me qualified. Thank you.
Okay, Brett, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Brett Lambert. I lived in Wahpeton my entire life, except for a couple years during college. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Julie, who's in the audience, and we have 3 boys, Jake, Joe, and Josh. I graduated from Wahpeton High School in 1986, and Nick, I was a Wahpeton Wap.
Oh boy.
I go way back. So I graduated from North Dakota State College of Science and received my bachelor's degree from NDSU. I've been on the Wahpeton Fire Department for 20 years. I'm also a member of the Red River Sportsman's Club, Wahpeton Buffalo Club, Sons of American Legion, and I'm the past member and vice president of the NDSCS Catbackers Club, and a volunteer for the Red Cross. My favorite hobbies are fishing, hunting, and traveling. I enjoy being a referee for high school, college basketball and football, and have been there for 35 years. And I see a few people from the audience that have been at my games, probably hollered at me a few times even. I feel I have great qualifications to be the mayor of my experience being on the city council for close to 8 years, working with the city park district for 13 plus years, working for North Dakota State College of Science here for 7 years, and now for Richland County for 16 years. I've been through various floods in the city, including being on the front line in 1997 and 2009. Being on the Wahpeton Fire Department has given me so much experience with emergencies, including the 2008 industrial piping fire in Wahpeton and the 2009 flood fight. I've helped many organizations in our community by volunteering, and I would love to give back to our great city of Wahpeton by becoming your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now start the formal question part, and we will rotate around. And because Mayor Dale went first, Jason, you will get the first shot at the question, and then we'll go in the same order, Nick, and then Brett, and then you back to Dale. The first question is, for all of you, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and what makes you the best candidate?
So I'd say for strengths, and I already covered some of them in the intro, because I have a military background, I've proven that I can work well under pressure and I can multitask. I trust the people I work with because you have to when you're in that environment. And I'm also diplomatic. Part of that, serving twice in West Africa, was I had to work with embassies in 2 different West African countries. And that really taught me how to work with other people and not to be cliched, but how to be diplomatic. Some other strengths I have is, like I mentioned earlier, my experience in government, having been to the legislature, having worked as a county agent in 2 different counties, and now with the city council. And I believe that's what makes me the most qualified candidate. You want the weaknesses now?
Sure.
It might not sound like one. I really thought about this, but I was raised that your worth is direct. Your measure of worth is how hard you work. And that's what I used to believe in, work, 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 work. Well, as I have grown older and started a family and become more interested in other things, I've realized that's not always a good thing. And I think my greatest weakness is balancing and finding a work-life balance. And I am not even going to say I'm there yet, but I'm working on it. And I think that when I finally get there, it'll be something called retirement. But that's what it is. And with having 2 kids at home, I'll tell you, and most of you probably know this, but having them come to council meetings and involving them is part of it's keeping them interested in what I do, but also not excluding them. And so I'm constantly working on that.
Thank you, Jason. Nick?
Thank you. I would say my greatest strength I can bring to the table as mayor is I really believe I have an ability that if I need to put my personal belief or opinion aside and think, well, what's the majority opinion of Wahpeton? Like a good judge, you have to be able to put your personal beliefs aside. Sure, there are certain things I'm running on, and I believe if I get elected on those things, that we can say that the majority of the people agree with me. But there are going to be issues, and I'm sure something will come up today, that it's not something that I necessarily want to do, but if the city wants to do it, if majority of the people, it's local government, majority rule, so I can put that aside and get done with what the citizens want. Another strength, I think, I'm not afraid of conflict. Conflict isn't always a bad thing. Oftentimes, if you're going to bring change, if you're going to change, if you're going to shake things up, so to speak, which if I get elected, I will, there's going to be conflict, and you have to be able to deal with it, you can be able to work through it, and get through the other side, and still accomplish your goal, even though there's going to be conflict with other members or people that have strong opinions. My weakness is when I have an idea, I want to push it through. Some people might look at that as, well, you're not being patient, you're not doing enough due diligence, but if I bring something forward, I've done the research, I've done the due diligence, so some people might look at that and say, well, you're not being patient, you're trying to move things along too quickly. Other people might say, hey, he has an agenda, he's working hard for it, and let's get it done and move on to the next thing. So I think those are my strengths, and I kind of turned my weakness into a strength, but that's what people do. And as far as what makes me the most qualified candidate, I think everyone up here is qualified. Certainly everyone up here loves town. My legal education, I think, will help. I believe that me being the only person that doesn't currently sit on the council, I'm the outsider, so to speak. I'm the new person to the table. And I believe every so often, that's the kind of person you need. So that's why I'm the best candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Jason? Brett?
Thank you. My strengths would be, I guess I look at my nearly 8 years experience on the council and 32 plus years in working in city and county and state government. And I'm inclusive and a collaborator with residents so they feel like they have a voice. I've built great relationships in our community and in the neighboring communities also, and I can see and I can use those experiences to help our city grow bigger and better. Living here my entire life, I know the culture of the city, have a good feel for it. As far as my weakness, I guess I'd look at, sometimes I feel like I need to fix everything right away today, and it's not always possible. When somebody asks me a question or about a problem that is going on, I would like to answer them in the right way, but sometimes I need to wait and gather more information and to be able to answer the person in the best way possible with the best information. So patience is is a good thing I need to work on that end of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Dale?
My strengths, I believe I'm well versed on the headwinds of our community. 6 or 7 years ago, we lost an opportunity for a soybean crushing plant here in Wahpeton. They selected Aberdeen. It was us two that were in the finals. After that process, the bean processor identified headwinds for them to locate here. And it was the volume of water that was available, the volumes of natural gas. There were some deficiencies in rail and concerns with electricity. Since that time now, we've mitigated 2 of those with the announcement of the construction of a new gas line. And working with the State Water Commission, we've discovered that our Wahpeton buried aquifer is bigger than anybody ever thought, and we should be well suited in the future for those high water demand industries that may come along. I've had initial contacts with the railroad, learning more about them, and a couple of meetings with electrical providers, learning more about that and how we can play a role in minimizing those headwinds in the future. Another strength, I believe, is I'm very knowledgeable with the CIP, our capital improvements plan of the city, 22 through 26, 2022 through 26. There's, I believe, about $58 million worth of projects identified. And to be able to prioritize them, sort out the nicety from the necessity, you have to look at the consequences of failure. A lot of things go into that. I'm well versed on what's all in that document and what needs to move forward and what potentially would need to wait for grant funding. And as running my own business for over 20 years and continually looking for efficiencies, that's something that I bring to the city. And being from the private sector, I think there's a lot of things I look at that can be done different and be able to save money. In doing that, we can continue the trend of lowering the amount of mills that we levy, property tax reduction. And I believe we were levying 125 for mills in 2010 when I started, and it was down to 93 mills now. Weakness, that's a tough one, and it is probably also patience. Recurring items that keep coming back annually. Sometimes it's, well, even in-house, you know, we need a new truck, and this is the reason. The next year it comes back. Oh, the lady with the stop card got me.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to the next question. And I'm thinking some of these might overlap as we go forward, but we'll face that issue if it comes up. Nick, you will be the first one to get this question. What are the two biggest issues facing the city? Because I know there's lots of issues, so let's try and just narrow it down to the two biggest in your mind.
I think the two biggest issues facing the city is the city's overuse of special assessments, and we give away too much money at city council meetings. We special assess so much in this town, and when I talk to people, they say, well, how could you possibly pay for it? The truth is, that's not how it is everywhere. There are some people I've talked to that moved here that say we never had special assessments back where I'm from. We don't have to do it. We get control of the money that we give away. We give away grants. We give away low interest loans. Often, and for all fairness, they have these discussions at committees, but with no discussion. $90,000, $125,000, $35,000. Boom, boom, boom. No discussion, unanimous voting. If we stop that, there just might be enough money to not have to charge somebody that lives across from the middle school to fix the road. On Loy Avenue, there's been special assessments in Wahpeton. Why should the person that lives across from the middle school pay for that road? Doesn't make any sense. So how we do business, this issue of giving away money to people that don't need it. I'm pro-business. There are business tax incentives we can do. But we also give away 5-year tax abatements for people that are doing really well, and they don't need it. But we give it to them anyway. Stop doing that. We tell businesses, hey, you can be confident if you come here. We're not going to special assess the property, the road in front of your house, in front of your business. That's going to drive interest in Wahpeton. That's going to drive investment in Wahpeton. So giving away too much money, sticking the cost of things that should be on the tax levy on the homeowners through special assessments. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Brett?
Okay. I guess I look at the biggest issues facing, I guess I'd like to see more affordable housing, as in we have a percentage of our people work in manufacturing and their salaries aren't huge, but if we can, and Mayor Dale has done a great job and our city council working together and pushing for the 30 new homes that have gone up this year, and in the last few years we put up 14, and then I believe the other one was like 4 and then 2 in 2018, so 2018 2 and 2019 4 and 2020 12, and then now 2021 30, and we're looking at putting more housing up and make it affordable for these people. They can afford a house and live here, not have to drive, and it's going to grow our community like it has been, and the trend's starting to show that way, and we just got to keep that going. And not everybody can afford a big fancy house, so if we can get them into affordable housing and keep them here, that's a great way to attract them here. I guess a couple other issues facing, I would look at, we need to attract more new businesses here to come to Wahpeton, and also finishing our wastewater pond system to eliminate the odors. MidNec has done a great job, and we're getting there. We're pushing and doing our studies and getting the work done on it. We just got to get to the finish line. We're about the 5-yard line to punch it in and to finish our wastewater ponds up there to eliminate the future odors. And then working on street repairs and replacement of our infrastructure, and it's an ongoing thing. The funding, the money's not is hard to get from the state too, and the Fed. So doing, like Nick said, would be, we have to be good with our money and put it where it needs to be put. I feel great communication in education with our residents. We turn these challenges into a positive. Having public forums so we can hear from all you residents and educate. You can educate us, and we can educate and improve our city and make everything better.
Rick? Dale?
I think the biggest issue facing the city is keeping up with our infrastructure needs. Some of the streets are in our urban road system and become eligible for 80% funding from state and federal with a 20% local share. We're allotted so many dollars per year, and we have to let them funds accumulate so we can do a sizable project. The next one would be 8th Avenue North out here from 11th all the way east. And the majority of the roads are not in the urban roads program. And in the last years, it seems like we've kind of slipped into a a pattern of running and putting out fires, filling a pothole here and a pothole there. Previous to 2013, we did a project, it was called North Central Street Improvement Project. Took 36 blocks between 4th Street and 11th, 2nd Avenue and 8th Avenue and did miscellaneous pavement maintenance. The underground, the water and sewer was in good shape on there. We went through, we did some curb replacements, we were mud jacking curbs, some edge mill and overlay, crack filling, seal coating and whatnot. It was an affordable project. It was knocked out a sizable chunk of the streets in town, and we were going to work on the next one was going to be East Central, a similar project over there, and that has skid. And I think in the CIP that's scheduled for 2030 now. But finding those bigger chunks with good underground has to be the priority, so you can do that pavement preservation and not let the street continue to deteriorate and you get into a total rebuild. That infrastructure's got to be the biggest issue we face. Another issue sometimes is the resistance to change that we run into. People, the same thing, the same way. And I know Mr. Lamprecht will attest, we've talked about daytime snow plowing operations, getting that snow off of the streets. And I've seen where it's done in the daytime, the streets are dry at night in parts of town. And in other parts where they're not plowed during the day after a snow event, they freeze, the snow is compacted, they go the next day to plow, they can't get it cleaned off, and it gets to be a mess. Then you have to go with a motor grader and try and scrape it off, or use excessive amounts of sand and gravel, or sand and salt, which have to be cleaned up in the spring. So those are a couple of the biggest issues.
Okay. Please.
The first one is, and we're sitting here in North Dakota State College of Science, the reduced enrollment. At one time there was, I think, around 3,000 students on this campus. There's now around, I think, about 1,000. Maybe my numbers are a little bit off, but I think I'm close. And the city and the administration need to be partners in filling the dormitories and classrooms at this college. Imagine if we had 2,000 more residents to our city without building any more infrastructure, without spending that much more tax money. And I don't know why it hasn't happened, but moving forward, this is something we really need to address. It would help the businesses in town finding work. There'd be more workers available. We wouldn't have to deal with that worker shortage if we had 2,000 more students in town. We'd have more sales tax. They'd be in town shopping and buying things. We'd have more revenue for the city. So that's at the top of my list, is partnering with this college and filling these dormitories. The second one, and I think you're going to hear a common thread on this one, is affordable housing. And the reason you're hearing that from so many of us is because that's something that the council has been working on. And so I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on that, because we are working on it, and I do plan to continue that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So this is kind of an overlap question, but not really. It's kind of more specific. How do you propose filling some of the empty businesses in the town? We know there's plenty of empty buildings on Main Street, and there's other ones around the city too. So we're attracting businesses to move into those. We'll start off with Brett.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'd like to bring the chamber, the city, SVITA, and the businesses together and put people's ideas together. Bringing these people to the table is a draw to get their ideas and things that maybe we as city council don't look at, or as a mayor we don't look at, and to just give us their ideas and their perspectives, and that might just change a lot of things in a quick hurry. So, and also having quarterly meetings with these businesses. I mean, let's meet with them, have a quarterly meeting, and bring if it's the downtown, on the outskirts, in town, let's bring everybody together and have these quarterly meetings and say what's working here or what's building here. Can we bring that to our city? Can we make it better and bigger and better? And what can we do to help you? You know, where can we bind together and not duplicate things, as in with the city and the chamber and everybody working together? And I think that would be it would go a long ways and save time and give people's ideas. And also, I think would be an important thing would be to take our economic development director with us, and anybody else that wanted to go to other cities and get ideas. If you drive to Perm, Minnesota, you look at their main street, it's pretty well full on Perm, Minnesota. I mean, yeah, they draw the lake people too, but what can we do that would draw people to our town? You know, that town's smaller than we are, and they have a better, vibrant main street right now than we do. And it's not always the city's fault to fill spaces. Sometimes we have businesses downtown that are owned by private people where they don't want to fill that building right now, or they had a family issue for 3-4 years, so they weren't able, that building wasn't up for sale or wasn't up for rent. So it's not always the city that people say, how come your main street's not full? Well, we're doing our darnest to do it, but I think by having collaboration and bringing everybody together, I think we can accomplish a lot of goals and get people's ideas and bringing new ideas to our city would accomplish that.
Thank you, Brett.
On Dakota Avenue, yeah, I thought there was probably one business, you know, with a for sale sign or one building, and there's possibly two. But before you can fill that space, you have to have a willing seller. And Mr. Lambrick's point, some people just would rather sit on them places. Most of them don't live here. They don't see it. They don't see it deteriorating. They don't want to do anything with it. They pay their taxes. There's not a lot that we can do. It's their property. There have been improvements. The Bookhaven building, that was taken over and a new storefront put on there. The Seaford building has changed hands. I look for improvements there. Our project that we're conceptually at yet, I guess you would call it, that M&H, the old lot, the green space, that's there. The Wahpeton Auto Parts building generated quite a little interest, and I believe that building has sold. And I've seen conceptual drawings of the front of that. It looks very nice. I can see where it will be asset to the downtown. When those things are in motion and people see these things happening, it's going to be easier for people to invest in their own or locate their business here. You see that activity draws activity, and we get to a point, and I believe that it'll be driving itself. There are a couple of spaces I thought of just this afternoon, and there was an entity looking at taking them. The fit-up costs were too overwhelming for them. I recently, very recently, received cost estimates and their plan, and I'd like to go over that with them, and then would go with them to the realtor, the broker, whoever has the property, and see if some sort of arrangement could be negotiated to reduce the rent on the building while them improvements are being paid for. I think the Boiler Room had a arrangement like that when they first got into their business. And it would be nice to get them 2 spots filled up. And once that's done, then we've went a long ways, and I think the private sector will drive finishing that out. So,
Thank you. Jason.
I think the best model I can think of for getting a new business into town were the efforts that it took to get Walmart here. There was a very concerted effort to seek out Walmart and convince them that this is a community you want to build in. We didn't just wait for them to show up and hope that they would build in our community. There was a concerted effort to get them here. And we need to go back and look at what was working and re-implement that and get new businesses to want to come here. But the second thing is, and my mic is cutting out, but the second thing is, and when I thought about this, we can't forget about the businesses who are here who might want to expand. And the city has tools. For example, the Bank of North Dakota pays interest loan buy down. I think I got that title right. But not every business knows these tools are available. And so we need to do a better job of communicating. It never hurts to communicate more. And if the existing businesses in town, say that somebody has a small business out of their home, and they might want to move on to Dakota Avenue. Well, maybe they need that type of a PACE loan interest buy down to just get over that hurdle to get onto Dakota. And so I think those two things, it's not, yes, new businesses are good, we want to grow, but we need to take care of the ones that are already here as well.
Thank you, Jason. Nick?
Thank you. At risk of sounding like no special assessments 2.0, I think that is something that would really attract business here. If it was known, if you come invest in Wahpeton, we're not going to special assess the road in front of you. If there's a pipe that goes under your building and goes down the road, we're not going to special assess that. We're going to pay that out of the tax levy. I think that builds confidence, and that when it comes to spending money, confidence is a big factor. I also believe that there's a lot we can do with permits that can move things along. With permitting, oftentimes it gets bogged down in the inertia of city government because you have to wait to have a meeting so they can have a vote on it if there's going to be a permit. There are some permits that, for example, the city inspector, Todd Johnson, he can sign off on you're going to build a sign, which I did. He can sign off on that. But so there's more situations where we could do that. For example, maybe if you want to have a firework display, you can go to the public safety director and he could sign off on it. He or she at the time could sign off on it. I also believe if the public safety director says, no, we're not going to grant your permit, then sure, you should be able to go in front of the council and have a vote. But if you grant some responsibility to city officials when it comes to permitting, you can move things along faster. And word gets out that you're not going to be special assessed to death, that you'll be able to move your business along without getting bogged down in city government. Word gets out, people will come here, those businesses will start filling up. And I can't help but tell you the story. 2 meetings ago, 3 at the most, but I believe it was 2 meetings ago, a woman came in front of the city council, and she was late for a permit to sell fireworks this coming up season. And she had a building lined up, and she said, I'm late with the permit application because we're having trouble with the building, but it's on Main Street, but we secured it now. So and what we're going to do is we're going to put fireworks in the back, and we're going to put some sort of other shopping in the front. I believe there was other retail, clothes, knickknacks, things like that. But she said it would really help us get off the ground if we can have this fireworks this year. And she said why she was late. City Council had an opportunity to grant her that permit. City Council voted no. The only people that voted yes were Kelly McNary and Leah Carlson. And Leah Carlson will be sadly messed up with now that I believe she moved out to the country. So there we go, an opportunity. Only thing in her way was city government. They said no because you missed a deadline, but you can come and have city council say yes. She had a good reason. She had pictures saying how she said, well, here are some pictures. We're going to, on our own dime, we're going to make this building all beautiful. We're going to put all this money into it. City council said no. Everybody up here said no. Thank you. Besides me.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to add my 2 cents. In my insurance business, I've noticed a problem with succession plans because people are looking to get out of their business, but they can't because there's nobody there to take it over. So that's something that's also, maybe you're the ones you're talking about, can bring some younger people in, but I noticed that's something as my clients are aging out of their business that there's nobody there to maybe take it over, so we lose that business in the community. So I'm just adding that as a side note. So a little bit more of a controversial one, maybe perhaps. What is your position, and we'll start back with Mayor Dale, right? I think it's a wrap. What is your position on the proposed rec center, including funding, location, and operational expense?
The proposed wellness and activity center, I'm all for that. We've turned a corner with the last census when we went back over 8,000 people. I think in 1980 census, we were probably at 8,800, and for the following years, we've been in decline. I feel we've turned a corner, and we have momentum here in town. A facility like this helps to attract workforce, and it'll help to retain some of our elderly if there's these activities that can be taken advantage of in the winter in a facility like this. The location, after the vote, we re-examined other possible locations and have come back to west of the bypass. That donated land from the Community Development Corporation is the best long-term fit for where that would be located. I was hoping to hear by this time, if we were successful in some DOT funding for multiple projects out on the bypass. One was the pedestrian underpass to go to this facility because safety was a big issue out there, and it should be a concern of everyone. I actually met District Engineer Bob Walton at his Fargo office And we talked about this, we talked about overpass, underpass. He said, an underpass is the way you want to go. The overpass gets to be so huge because of ADA requirements, 16 feet up in the air, it gets expensive. He walked me through it. He said with that underpass, they can actually raise the roadway a ways so it doesn't have to go so deep. The top of the underpass becomes part of the roadway. That keeps it from getting deeper. Once, and hopefully, and I believe that project will score very high in the competition for those funds statewide. That's a $900,000 project. The Interstate Engineering developed a scope for us to turn into the state, and if successful, that would be a 90-10 split. So the city would be in for $100,000. You have to wait for that to happen, and the construction of that would take place in 2025, probably the same time that this activity center would be going. To move forward with that, we have to have a fiscally responsible plan on how to pay the bonds and the ongoing maintenance of it. We need to re-examine the amenities that would be involved in there. And a true leader, at times, you have to say no, and what is right for the city to make this project successful. We can't be deciding the color of the paint or if the hours of operation. We need to get that sales tax ballot passed.
Thank you. Jason, go ahead.
So we had a special election, and the special election, just to recap, was on a 3/4% sales tax increase for the purposes of construction, maintenance, and operation. And that election failed. And I think as elected official, it sends the wrong message to the electorate when we're revisiting this so soon after it failed at the ballot. We already have a 1.5 cent sales tax in town, and one of the things it can be used for is recreation. The other thing to consider here is if the city, the school district, the Parks and Rec, and the County Extension Service would communicate with each other, there's a lot going on. If this is an issue for what are our kids going to do, there's a lot going on, but they're under different houses, right, if you want to look at it that way. And I didn't think about this till recently because school just let out. And I thought what would be nice is through the schools, if at the end of the school year, every parent got a pamphlet and it said, here's all the activities in your community this summer and here's how you sign up and all the dates. Because I've looked for some of this stuff and I have to go to this website or that website, and it does take research and hard work for a parent to find these activities. But if we can do that, we wouldn't have to raise taxes and spend an exorbitant amount of money, and we wouldn't have to tell the electorate, thanks for your time, we appreciate your vote, but we're going to move forward anyway. I'm not in favor of that.
Okay. Nick?
Thank you. I agree with what Jason said. Ultimately, regardless of my opinion on this, the city had a vote on this and they voted no. Discussion over. It's a moot point. We've already had a vote on this. So the vote was for a 3/4 of a penny increase in sales tax. People of Wahpeton know that with that sales tax, it's and a lot of the overall money that's made, the revenue made, is going to come from people from outside of town. You come from Wyoming to shop at Walmart, you're going to pay, and that's an argument for that increase in the 3/4 cent. But people of Wahpeton knew that and still voted no. So to think that we want to pay anything out of the tax levy when we said no on this modest sales tax that would have included people from outside the community to pay for it, now the city council is just saying, well, let's just figure out a different way to do it. Let's have the vote again. Maybe the right people didn't vote the first time. Sorry, couldn't help get a little sarcastic on this one, but it's a moot point. If I could add a little bit on, even though that's where I would make my decision on this. In any other scenario like this, that's the decision. But here, you are looking to grow a labor force. So you build something that's going to take a labor force to operate. And then we're going to pay for it as the citizens of Wahpeton. Do you think it's going to be free for the citizens of Wahpeton to go to? I don't think so. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. I guess I look at operation of a rec center, I look at a study needs to be completed researching the financial implications to the citizens and the residents and the city. The information needs to be given out to the residents to show the funding, the expenses, the donations, and the impact a community center can do or not do. The location of the facility can be a positive for our growth on how the land has been donated, like Mayor Dale had mentioned. It's a pretty good significant amount of money. I think it's like over $1 million that the land was given to build there. If you would look at building an amenity, you would run into a lot more expense because you have to buy the land. And if you look at Fargo on their facilities, you look at most of their facilities are along major streets, busy streets. The Fargo Dome along 19th Avenue. Look how they changed the sidewalks and changed different things to make it safe, like Mayor Dale said, working with the DOT. I guess I feel a need for amenities to our town to grow and to attract people to live here. A great example is this winter, or I guess, is it still winter? It's not snowing out today, right? No, it's cold. But when a family can go and when it's so unbearable, like 20 below and the wind chills and like the blizzards we had this year, when you can't even go outside and do anything with the conditions with your own family, I had a guy who said, well, I just want to go play pickleball. I just want to go walk somewhere, you know. I guess I want the residents of Wahpeton to be able to see all the information, to be able to make a good decision for themselves and their family. And Nick hit one of the nails on the head as I talked with one of our financial people at the city. 2/3 of the sales tax would come from people from out of town. You look at people that come from, there's people from Sisseton, Milner, Wyndmere, and just to steal from one of my other questions here, but when you look at our zoo, and not everybody goes to the zoo, but a lot of people do, but you look at 5 to 6% local people go to the zoo, but the other percent of that is people from, so 4% from out of town, but 80,000 visitors to our zoo in a year. 80,000. You take that times, let's say 75,000 people times $15 in a year, and it costs about 10 to 15 to get in. That's not including gas. That's over 1,125,000 to our city, and just in taxing and shopping and restaurants. So, and to build things, you look at our golf course, to build these amenities. That's what brings people here to want to live here to a good community. And I guess let's put everything together, and I think look at what we can throw together and give the financial impacts and what it can do to our community. Thank you.
Okay. Next one's a little bit different kind of question. What should the city do about dilapidated properties or unsightly debris and trash in people's yards? Jason.
I think I'm going to hold on to this thing. I don't know what's going on with it. Okay. So the Public Works Committee does work on dilapidated properties. I think it's generally on their agenda. And as a council member, I've had those phone calls where somebody calls in, complains about a property, and I'll go follow up on it. And these are never easy conversations. Talking to somebody about the condition of their property is just about as uncomfortable as talking about the person themselves. And it's a deeply personal conversation that has to be done tactfully and diplomatically, and there have to be more than one conversation. But at the end of it, property owners have rights. And the city has to go through a very stringent due process to essentially leverage somebody to change the property. Now, in this question, it talks about trash. Well, that's different. If it's trash, refuse, garbage, or anything that's a sanitary issue or a public health issue, well, we have an ordinance for that. But if it's peeling paint or clutter in the yard, that's a lot more difficult to deal with because it's their right. I hate to say that, but if we want to create ordinances restricting their ability to live on their property the way they want, well, it becomes be careful what you wish for, because you might be the subject of that ordinance someday too. So there are two separate issues in this question. One is a sanitary issue, which we have an ordinance on, and the other one is just how the property looks. And we do work on that, and we do work with people to get them to clean up their properties and make them more presentable. But it's an ongoing process, and it takes time. Thank you.
Nick?
Thank you. As far as the dilapidated properties go, it is a difficult question because it's their house, right? So, but what you see a lot at the city council is we give away thousands and thousands of dollars to people that want to redo their homes. They come and they say, well, and the a city official comes up and they say, well, this person, they could use new shingles and they could use new windows. We're sitting there thinking, well, I could use new windows. So it becomes an issue if you think government's going to solve the problem short of going in there and taking someone's property. So it's very complicated issue. I've already laws in the books when it comes to if a house is literally falling apart. So there's laws in the books that we can enforce. When it comes to the trash, we have an ordinance in Wahpeton that if you have rubbish in your yard, that it could actually be a B misdemeanor crime, punishable up to $1,500 fine and 30 days in jail. And what you see a lot, and by the way, other cities aren't that strict on it. Hillsborough, for example, it's an infraction, so you can get up to a $1,000 fine on rubbish in your yard. I certainly think we should be giving people warnings and giving opportunities, saying, hey, we're going to charge you with a crime here, and you would hope that people will get it out of there pretty quickly. But there's an ordinance in town, like I said, that makes it a B misdemeanor crime. So that was passed by an elected city council. The question is, are we going to enforce it? What you see a lot is people will get cited, and maybe they miss their hearing, or have you, and then they have a warrant out for this rubbish in their yard. That's what they call it, rubbish in the ordinance. And now they have a warrant out there, and they're out there for a long time. And our cops know where they live, and it seems to be a decision. Let's not go and arrest these people because it seems almost crazy you do that for garbage in their yard. But that is the law, and if people aren't doing it, enforce the law. It sounds harsh, but the law is there. I didn't make it. It's there. Let's enforce it, and let's see how fast people start cleaning up their yards. So I don't want to change. I haven't had enough people come to me to tell me we don't like that or we want it more harsh, but we do have a law in the books that addresses it, so let's enforce it. And if people don't like that, they'll come to the city council and we can change it. But it is what it is, and let's enforce it.
Thank you. Brett?
Thank you. I guess I'd like to look at starting a group or committee in the city with the help of residents and us to address these properties, and also a proactive approach to the property owners by let's reach out to them, sending them a letter saying, hey, your property is getting close and it needs some attention. Let's give them, let's give them a good heads up so we can get ahead of it before it gets to where it's already dilapidated, and right now we don't do that. And also it'd be nice to, if we could we have a paint program to be able to help them with painting, and going to help the homeowners by explaining this. And if you saw in your utility bill, you probably saw a pamphlet from Gate City where you can borrow money and get money at a low interest rate there. Right now is your utility bill you just got mailed to you here this week. And it's a great program through Gate City. We just need more people to take advantage of that. And I think we need to knock on their doors, the ones that have these problems, and let's help them. Let's make a personal visit. What does it mean? What do we have, 30 homes or are in that ballpark, or maybe it's a few more, but let's stop and let's talk to these people. And I think, like they had mentioned, we need to develop ordinances. One example would be develop a housing maintenance ordinance. Our ordinance right now is so general, but we can knock that down and make it to where we need to, where it's workable for people, so we can still keep them in their homes and still help them. So we have the exact steps in place to get the job accomplished on dilapidated properties and debris and trash in yards. So let's just work hard on it and change a few minor things, and I think we can get to that goal.
Okay. Dale?
No doubt, I think there's a lot of people that think their neighbors have the more trash, rubbish, dilapidated properties than any other person in town. But there is a process in place to deal with them. And you monitor, measure, and mitigate. If there's a complaint, and I'll just use high grass as an easy example. If somebody calls to City Hall, hey, my neighbor's got high grass, he's not mowing it, that puts a process in motion where City Hall will call the PD. They will go out and monitor the problem, and if action is warranted, a letter is generated at City Hall. It takes 5 days. They have to come into compliance, and that's where you come in with the measuring. After the 5 days, the PD will go and inspect to make sure that it's done. If it's not done, we move into mitigation, and we take care of the problem for them. The cost gets charged to their taxes plus an administrative fee. The next time they're out of compliance, we don't have to go through the letter process. and it is a little quicker the next time. People don't understand about the process. Dilapidated properties, we're currently in the process. There's an order for the demolition of 2 properties. The owner is appealing. They have the right to do that. There's going to be a hearing. It was supposed to be this coming Monday. That didn't work for their lawyer, so it's another 2 weeks out. Now we're into the middle of June, but it's their right to appeal this and whatnot. It all takes time. So yeah, there's a process that we go by. The dilapidated properties, we get an update every 2 weeks at the Public Works Committee meeting. Building official Johnson monitors those. And the PD this year is taking a more aggressive approach on the clutter and the debris. When there was the implementation of the SRO, School Resource Officer, it was her duties then in the summer when school was out. She was the one on top of all those clutter, debris things and whatnot. The chief now has made this a departmental-wide goal that everybody's eyes are going to be on the ground looking for these problems, identifying them, and going through the SRO then we'll be able to take action. We'll be covering more properties. It's a more aggressive approach than we've ever used before.
Thank you. Shift gears a little bit. I will start with Nick. What will you do to assist law enforcement in fighting activities like illegal drugs?
First off, our police department has 2 members on SEMCA, which is our regional drug task force. My understanding is that our police department has 2 members on the drug task force, and so does the Sheriff's Department, Richland County Sheriff's Department. So we have equal representation with the Sheriff's Department on the drug task force, which is a multi-county task force. That's really good representation. We have to continue to do that. SEMCA does a lot of good work. They're the ones that are going after the narcotics and the drugs in our area. Most importantly, we have a young, ambitious officer right now, Gage Miller, and he's been trying to get a canine going. And he's been working on his own time, I'm sure to some degree his own dime, trying to figure out what he has to do to get the canine. We should support him in every way we can. We should get that canine. He's a young officer, like I said, ambitious, just married, 2 little children. He's gonna be around a long time. Dog's gonna live with him. It'd be a great opportunity. And not only will we have the dog with our police force, but I'm sure it can contribute to SEMCA. Richland County has a dog, but we don't have one in the city of Wahpeton. Well, now Wahpeton is contributing, or our county will be contributing 2 dogs to the drug task force. So keep our representation on the drug task force through the Wahpeton Police Department and get young Gage Miller his dog. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. I agree with Nick. Actually, I gave Gage a grant thing that he's applying for. It was due at the end of the month, so he's waiting for it. He's been working hard, and he's got some funding already in, and now it's kind of to get a vehicle, whatever. But I think it's an important part. When we had the explosion at the IED explosion at the law enforcement center, we brought our county dog in to help in the city to track that person, whatever, to find, and we were able to find his car on the backside of the Sanford Clinic. So. It's a big, important piece, and I believe the police presence in our department, it can be a huge deterrent, more concentration on those areas and some extra attention to the problem areas. And then the funding of SEMCA is a huge part, like Nick had mentioned, and it's not just Wahpeton alone, but Richland, Wilkins, and Sargent counties and that work together. They all help together to work these and keep these problems isolated. So if we can stay on top of them, keep them isolated in other counties from moving here, and keep them out of other communities, that's where we can turn this into a win. And I think they do a great job now. And making sure our department has the right resources to deter the illegal drug activity. So let's give them the right equipment and the right things and the right resources to be able to accomplish the task. And nobody wants people next door living to you that are drug dealers, and we need to get it cleaned up and take care of it.
Thank you. Dale?
I don't believe that the chief has ever been denied a request that he's made when it comes to equipment and safety for his officers. I'm continually impressed with the proactive nature of the police department. They're out ahead of it. They bring things to us when they're pertinent, and we're always willing to provide for them needs. The SEMCA is a key part of this with drugs. Mr. Goltz and I actually sit on the SEMCA board, city representatives, and we are updated regularly on their activities. Those activities cannot always be made public because they would lose their effectiveness. And they are out there doing a good job. At the last meeting, there has been an uptick in the local area. They were expecting it. It funnels down from the cities to Fargo to coming here. They've intercepted, I believe he said, a sizable amount of drugs, and they're continuing to work on those types of things. I believe they are operating successfully, and keeping them drugs out of our community has got to be a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, anytime the police department has come to the council asking for, say, updated communications equipment, I voted in favor of that. They do a really good job in the community. And like the mayor said, attending those SEMCA meetings, SEMCA does such an amazing job in this community, and without that organization, I would say we'd have some significant problems. That organization allows for better communication, better coordination, and it just leads to a greater level of efficiency in keeping those narcotics out of our community. And I'm all in favor of continuing that relationship with them.
Thank you, Jason. What is your, no, Brett's first question on this one. What is your position of the city support of the golf course and the Chihinkapa Zoo?
Thank you, Ed. I look at the Chihinkapa Zoo and the Boise Sioux Golf Course really helps this town with identity and destination for people when they look at things, and families to come to our town and also our families to use it. When you look at our zoo, like I mentioned earlier, we have over 80,000 visitors a year, and 5 to 6% they say are local. When I talked to Kathy Dickman and the rest of the town, so you take the 75,000, like I mentioned, times $15 a head, that's over 1,125,000 just to our city and our zoo. And you look at, they got to fill their tank with gas. Restaurants, they'll come here to eat, they'll spend a day, they'll go to our pool, they'll go to our golf course. Our golf course is one of a kind in the nation, 9 holes in Minnesota, 9 holes in North Dakota. It's a great attraction, many special interest groups. It helps with fundraising by hosting golf tournaments there. Many of our residents love to golf too. I've tried it here. I don't do the best at it. I don't know why, but I struggle with golfing a little bit, but I still do it. When we have the right management team in place, we always show a profit. So by having that right management team in place, we have never showed a negative, I feel. And if you look at last week when I drove by the zoo in the area down there, you couldn't hardly drive down there. There are so many buses from region-wide, not just in, you talk in Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, there was buses from everywhere. I could go down the list. I saw Pelican Rapids, I saw Breckenridge, I saw Rossholt, I saw Sisseton. So just down the line, when you look at what that attracts to our city and our community is a great thing.
Great. Dale?
I have a strong position of support for the zoo and the golf course. I realize the huge amenities that those are to our community, the people that they do draw to town, the importance of that. Ideally, everything would be self-sufficient, and that's not always the case. Recently, Zoo Board member John Bullis had discussed to me, and I believe council, a plan that they had that they needed funding for to move forward, which would help enhance attendance and whatnot. It was part of a master plan of where the zoo is going to go, and the city did support that. The golf course, I go back to the CIP, there's a irrigation intake for the golf course. Draw water from the river for watering everything out there. That structure is slowly falling into the river. And the consequences of failure, I've talked about that before, if that happens and they lose that water supply, the golf course dries up, there's not going to be any golfers out there. So it's projects like that that are in the CIP that we can't lose track of, that we get them replaced before they fail. Very, very supportive of the zoo and the golf course, as well as many other entities in town that depend on us for when times get hard or they fall, that we're there to pick them up. Thank you.
Jason?
So I'm not a golfer, but I understand. And so you won't find me out there. But, you know, it is an asset to the community. And it's so much of an asset that there's a reason why we own a little slice of Minnesota, right? So I've supported the golf course when they've come to the council with I think the last time it was the clubhouse. Is my microphone causing problems for you? That's what I thought. Okay. So I've supported the golf course, even though you're not going to find me out there. With the zoo, we were just there yesterday. That is a jewel for the community, it really is. And it's funny that as part of my job, I attend some ag shows, set up a booth, and I was up in Minot in February KMOT, or end of January. And I was just talking to people, I live in Wahpeton. Oh, you've got the zoo. You know, all the way up in Minot, you know, they knew about our zoo. It's so well known. And yesterday, either I missed this, I didn't know, but apparently they have tigers again. And I was just so happy to see tigers in that enclosure again. And then my first thought was, oh gosh, what did they do with the leopards? Well, they're around the corner, so it's fine, we still have leopards. So we really do need to keep supporting this zoo. It is a long-standing institution in our community. I can't remember off the top of my head how long it's been here. But this needs to continue. There are so many people from around the area that come here routinely just to visit it. And the carousel, by the way, we went there too. The kids rode the carousel. Thank you.
Nick?
I agree with everyone. It's we love the zoo, we love the park, whether it's the zoo, the golf course, the huge playground, the pool, the very nice baseball field, our diamonds, all our softball diamonds, all of our shelters. It goes on, right? So it really is a beautiful part of our town that I believe everybody in town is very proud of. And like the other candidates said, it's probably the only thing that we have in Wahpeton truly, besides jobs, that people come here for. We spend probably too much money in Fargo, but it's our opportunity for people in Fargo to spend their money here, and they do. So we all like the park. I like that it's open. I think we have to be conservative with our money. We have to start with the roads and utilities, and those are the priority. But the park is high on the list too. So we have to take care of the park. It's when we do spend money outside of the necessities of government, it should be for things like the park that everybody can enjoy almost every day of the year. Thank you.
All right, now our final prepared question. Wahpeton has 9-member council, the largest in the state. Should it be reduced, expanded, or remain the same size? Dale?
I believe it should remain the same size. If we try to reduce the number, I'm afraid we're going to minimize participation. When I was first elected in 2010, I ran in Ward 1. I was only dealing with 25% of the population. I'm not one for soliciting donations or receiving them. And if I would have had to run citywide, I don't know that I would have did that. And this gives an opportunity for that new blood to come along, get in there a little easier than if they had to run citywide. At times, and it's partly a result of COVID, in a recent couple of years, it's getting hard at times to get a quorum. And if we would reduce from 8 to 6 or something, the quorum would go from 5 to 4. So I think we would be handicapping ourselves more in the future by going down. And the elimination of the wards that was voted down to that, I can't remember if we were 767 to 585 votes. It was pretty decisive to keep things the way they are. And I believe if it's, in this instance, if it's not working or if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Jason?
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the size of the council. It brings a good amount of diversity to the city council. And the question says, well, we have the largest council in the state. Great. Maybe other people can see that as an example of how to run city government. The amount of diversity we have on the council brings a tremendous amount of different points of view, and we can have those honest discussions at the committee meetings. And those committees, if we were to reduce the council, well, we need about 7 or 8 council members to run those committees. I'm on the finance committee, and we meet every 2 weeks. I'm on the forestry committee, which is about once a quarter. I'm on SEMCA, which is about once a quarter. Then there's the public works committee. We'd have to restructure everything. Why would we want to do that? One of the problems, if this is an issue with, something wrong with it, if this is an issue with participation, like having people run unopposed, well, that isn't a function of the size of the council. That's just the electorate wanting to take part. Well, how do we do that? I was walking around talking to people, and I talked to a 19-year-old young man, and I said, "You gonna vote?" "Well, I'm only 19, he says. I said, "Yeah, you can vote. In fact, you can participate." So I told him he should run for school board. But the thing is that if we're going to reach out, I bring my children to the council meetings and they want to come. They ask, "Can I come to the next meeting?" We should be reaching out as elected officials to our schools and talking to students about their future in our community and their participation, and get them thinking about this and interested before that magic age of 18. And then we'll have a whole generation coming up that are active and interested and want to serve. But the size of the council has nothing to do with that.
Okay. Nick?
The uniqueness of the council is, I would say, a strength to Wahpeton. We have a nice mix of at-large representatives that, of course, represent the whole town, and then we have the individual wards, all with representation. Even though a lot of business is unanimous vote at our current city council, in theory, the more people you have on the council, the more representation you have, the more you're getting the actual discussion of the town. So the more people you have on it, chances are you're going to get that minority opinion that you might not have heard with less people on the council. I'm not saying expand it, but it's working. It's a good mix of the at-large and the ward representatives. I think we should be proud of it and keep doing just what we are.
Okay, Brett?
Thank you. If you look at, there's meetings like every Monday night, there's either a council meeting or a committee meeting. And you look at all those decisions that we make, a majority of the discussion is during those meetings of the committee meetings, like the finance committee and the public works committee. So we meet on those first, and then we bring it to the council. So all the discussion, all the financial parts of it, of the quotes of prices and everything before we do anything is all discussed at the finance, and then it's brought to our city council for the final decision. So there's a kind of a good step process there. When I look at the 9-member council being the largest, I guess I understand what the city did back years ago in trying to have representation in each ward and in each area. But can we accomplish that with all that large representation? I don't know that. Let the people have a voice in their decisions and like this and see what the future of the citizens would like to see, and that's their decision. That's how I feel about it. So.
Okay, well, we've gone through our prepared questions, and since we're getting short on time, we will skip a break and go right to the questions from the audience. Again, I direct you to the microphone to your right, and keep it so it's a question for all the candidates, so that make sure you frame it so it can be that, and again, keep it appropriate, no personal attacks, and regarding policy and or procedures. And while we wait for somebody to go up there, again, I want to mention our sponsors for the live stream: Redemption Construction, Red River Valley and Western Railroad, OK Tire of Wahpeton, Healing Arts Chiropractic, Vaderstad, Wahpeton Breckenridge Chamber, and Three Borders Sports.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
You bet, Frank.
Perfect. Okay, I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly with minimal. Some months ago, there was increased focus on the working relationship between city leaders and city staff. If elected, how would you maintain mutually beneficial relationships for yourselves and your peers?
Start with you, Jason.
Well, I mentioned earlier, I think it was on leadership style or in one of my answers, that you have to trust people. You have to trust the people you work with. And anytime, I've been in leadership positions for most of my adult life, and what I've learned in that is you trust and you delegate and you centralize when it's necessary. And the other thing, I'm having technical difficulties, so. And the other thing is that we should be able, as a council and working with each other, to be able to openly disagree with each other and not take it personally. We should have views that are opposing. We have a lot of conversations in committee meetings, and we don't always agree with each other, but we move forward anyway. Thank you.
Nick?
Thank you. I'm reading the question, or I'm hearing the question as a question of management of people. That's a top-down approach when you have a leadership, and it's a trust but verify situation. You have to trust people, as Mr. Gold said, but you also have to check your staff, your employees, your city employees. You have to check their work. It's no different than I have an assistant at my law firm, and I don't get to just say, well, she screwed up. It's on me. It's my name on it. If she filed it and it was wrong, I can't blame her. So I have to verify, I have to trust her to do it, but I have to review it before she gets done. So there's a trust but verify situation. I think, I don't know about the situations you're talking about, but I do know that, as I said before, I'm not afraid of conflicts. Conflict's not always a bad thing, so we have to look into when we have these complaints. You have to take them seriously, of course, but you have to look, is this just because there was a conflict where somebody had to be stern and make sure that things are getting done and somebody was being a boss, like their role is, or is there an actual violation of law or of basic morality that we should deal with? So I think we shouldn't jump to any sort of conclusions about anything. Not saying that you implied that in your question, but we have to verify these things and don't have any sort of preconceived notion of what the outcome is before we hear everyone's side. Thank you.
Right. Go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I feel I'm not a micromanager. Like Jason mentioned, let people do their job. I feel like I like to accomplish things, and I want people to feel like they can accomplish things. Have them feel like they're part of the team and they can dig in and help. And if someone's not doing their job, let's have the team help everybody help and motivate that person to do it. And have an understanding and compassion. We all go through life and have different trials and struggles, and being able to understand things. And sometimes people have personal things that we need to work with them people and get them the help, or whatever it is, if it's an employee or whatever it could be. I think it's being compassionate and helping them people. I feel motivated to inspire others and empower our city staff. Just have them help us, and we can help them, and be a team effort. And they feel open, and they can come talk to any of the council people or the mayor. They can come talk to us and have an opening and an understanding. But yet still they understand what the limits are.
Okay. Dale?
I think the biggest thing here is between the elected and the city employees, the need for mutual respect of each of those components. The respect for them guys that are doing their job, but they also have to respect that we're doing our job. And at times when you tell people what needs to be done, and they're of the attitude that, well, no, I'm not going to do that, then that elevates the situation. And we need to be careful that there's that mutual respect. Otherwise, we get to this the tail wagging the dog type scenario that I'll say where, no, I don't want to do that, or it's not in my job description. So mutual respect is a big deal.
Okay. Is there another question from the audience? Go ahead.
Ben Oliver, longtime resident of Wahpeton. Jason brought up Walmart. My father brought Walmart to town, and our family got devastated, killed by it, hurt by it. Talking about special assessments out there. We paid them all. But what's the city gonna do with their land to the south for specials for the event center? Who's gonna get those specials in those streets? Who's gonna pay for the property taxes out there? How are you gonna help developers of land like me, Jerry Mead, Bobby Comstock in town? We're trying to give away, we can't give away our land for commercial property. You have to go against the city who owns the property. How is it gonna be even to us to be able to sell ours, where the city can give their homestead edition away if they have to get new business in town? That's what I wanna know.
Nick, you're first up on this time?
Well, that's just that story is what I'm talking about. These special assessments. You paid them, and now Walmart's there, and they're reaping the benefit of it. So that's why I tell my neighbors. You know, my neighbors are much older than my wife and I. Not old, but you know, I told them, if we redo this road in front of here, and you have to pay special assessments, you're going to be long gone, and it'll be new people enjoying it. So why should you have to pay for it? So I would say that if it can't be done, well, first we shouldn't do it. It's a moot point. That property, we shouldn't develop it for the recreational center. And if the people of Wahpeton really, really want it, which they obviously don't because they voted no on it, we cannot have our local residents paying the special assessments on it. Absolutely not. That's another reason not to build it. And on your point about they're giving away this huge piece of land, but how are you supposed to sell? We don't need to be a market participant in every area of the market. The city of Wahpeton shouldn't be competing against you. So, should we give it away? No, we shouldn't give it away.
Brett?
Okay. Yeah, I guess I respect your questions and stuff, and I'd like to look into it a little more as on all the assessments or whatever, and see what we can do as an effort for the city.
They're all paid off.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yep.
before we spent $1 million on the street,
Right.
and
Yep.
we still can't sell that around.
Still can't say, yep. But I think we just sit down and working with the city and working with us, and I think looking at things in the future and how we can look at the different developments and working on those, I think we can come to some mutual consent in helping you.
Dale?
On the proposed wellness and activity center, the special assessments would be rolled into the operational costs of it. We talk about self-sustaining. That's the farthest thing from my mind, is for this to become a burden on the rest of the city. It has to be self-sufficient, and that's how the specials would be paid, would be from proceeds, profits from this building. Giving away land, the CDC is doing it for this wellness center. I don't have any idea what the land will be selling for out there. I believe another sale is imminent there, and I'm sure whoever buys that land is not going to be giving it away either. So,
Okay, Jason?
I'd say the most common phone call I get is special assessments. And I've thought a lot about this, and I'm in favor of if the city can develop a plan, but it's going to be a long-range plan on how to wean ourselves off special assessments. And it's going to be long range because I don't know how long the city of Wahpeton has relied on specials, but it's a while. And anytime we're in a situation where we've relied on something over a long period of time, ending it isn't very easy. And the other problem here is on a long-range plan is future councils are not beholden to the decisions of past councils. And so if the community really wants to do away with special assessments, it's going to take a long-range plan, and we're going to have to stick with it. But I'm all in favor of looking at budget scenarios that would show that, to see what it would take for us to do that. Thank you.
Are there any other audience questions? Thank you. Please state your name and your question.
Karen Casa, Wahpeton resident. This kind of goes back to the question on the police force and those issues here in town. Is what is your position as far as actually expanding our police force? Because I do know that there are situations that arise here in town where there is not enough officers on duty, and retaining the current police force that we do have, as I understand it's a high burnout type job, but it just seems that in the past few years we've had a fairly significant turnover within our police force.
Okay, thank you. Brett, you first up?
I'm the first up on that one.
I think so.
Nice question, Karen. Thank you. I guess I look at expanding our police force. I've always been a supporter of the police department, and you've seen what's going on in the national news and actually worldwide. It's tough to get police force, and we have to treat them right. And I guess I look at we've had a great police force. We've had some long-term ones. We've had a great turnover lately, but we've been very fortunate in our city to be able to fill those positions. We also have a couple people that are in the National Guard that are on our police force, so we've had some absences where we've had to fill them. We've had to pay some overtime. And I look at police and fire, and I look at snow removal. I look at the importance of living here and what we have, and safety. I think safety, everybody agrees that safety is an issue, and if I look at it, if we have to have a little more funding for police officers or fire to protect ourselves, I look at that. That's an important thing. That's life safety is what it is, and I think it's important that we have those things in place. And if we have to, whatever we got to do to make it manageable for them to get the job done, that would have to be done.
Okay, Dale.
As far as increasing the number of officers, if the chief was uncomfortable with the level of protection, and when I talk about protection, it's having enough officers on duty to respond adequately to any emergency. He's never asked about expanding the police force. In Wahpeton, I believe we are very fortunate with partnerships that exist, be it with Breckenridge or Wilton County, Richland County, North Dakota State College of Science campus police, that when those emergencies happen, that it doesn't take too long and there is solid coverage. There's people on call that come in and whatnot. If at any time there was problems with not having enough depth, I'm sure the chief would bring it forward.
Okay, Jason.
Being a retired National Guardsman, a lot of my friends are in law enforcement. You're absolutely right. It's a high-stress job, and it has a high turnover rate. If the police department feels that they need extra staff, then I'm on the finance committee. I'd be more than willing to listen to that if they feel they need that. When a request like that comes to the committee, they do a nice job of laying out their needs. I referenced earlier the communications equipment, which we gave to them. I think if they were to come to council and say we need an extra officer and they were able to lay that out, I don't see that would be a problem.
Nick.
Yes, thank you. I am a big supporter of the police. Even though I'm a lawyer, I really like the cops, and I like to think the ones around here like me. I treat them with respect, they treat me with respect, and I think we have a lot of good ones here locally. I think, well, I don't know if the need is there. Maybe it is. So I kind of parodying their answers that if the Scott Thorstensen, the current chief at the time, came and needed more, I would certainly see where can we make room. Because you can't spend money on everything, right? But where can we find the money without having to increase taxes? I would say, as far as the police force we have now, if the money's there, we have, like I said, we have some good ones and some young ones. And I know one in particular that went from Minnesota side over to North Dakota side because, in his opinion, it was more attractive on this side of the river to be an officer at the time, it's always more attractive on this side of the river. But we have to retain them. So let's look at what are the benefits to officers in different towns. Let's make Wahpeton the most attractive place to be a cop. If you do that, you'll get good ones and they'll stick around. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Find your way to the mic, please. Again, state your name and give your question.
My name's Garrett Schwinghammer. My question that I wanted to hear from you guys, and Nick, I've seen a few of your material around town, but I wanted to ask a bunch of you guys too. A couple of years ago, when businesses were being closed for the pandemic, I had to actually contribute from my own money to GoFundMe's to keep some of my friends who run businesses in town. I had to contribute to a GoFundMe so that they could stay open through the pandemic. So what I wanted to ask you guys is, in case something like that comes down the pipeline again, what are your guys' feelings on restrictions like that?
Dale, you'll be the first up this time.
When that pandemic was going on, it was a difficult decision to implement the mask mandate in town. I got plenty of feedback on that, negative, but a lot more positive feedback, that it was something that the residents felt needed to be done. It was actually at election time. I had a poll worker call me that was concerned that she would be front line for how many different people registering to vote and whatnot. And the day before that is when the mask mandate was implemented. Those types of measures are hard, but it's necessary at times, and it was justified. And if we ever have to go through that again, whatever measures it takes for the public safety need to be taken again. So hopefully we won't deal with something like that again.
Go ahead, Jason.
When we implemented the mask mandate in Wahpeton, my position on it was why mandate something people are doing already anyway. At the time we did it, most people were wearing masks voluntarily, and I just felt that let the people who want to wear masks wear them, and people, if they don't, leave them alone. I would hope that with this pandemic and the experiences and the lessons learned, that moving forward, if this were to happen again, it won't be like it was before, because the other part of the COVID was all of the unknowns. Everybody was on a learning curve. Nobody knew anything about it. And I think that if this were to happen again, some of this stuff will be revisited and maybe some of it won't.
Thank you. Nick?
Love the question. Are we free or are we not? And this is going to be a very polarizing answer to some people, I imagine. But absolutely not is it the government's role to come in and tell you, you have to wear a mask, or you have to make your customers wear a mask. You have to shut down your business. You have to do this. It's either you have to do it or you can't do it. That is not the United States of America that I grew up idolizing, that made me want to go to law school. We talk about, it's easy to say, well, you probably know someone elderly, you do it for them. What about the people that were in a nursing home that couldn't have their family come and see them in the last part of their life? In hospitals on their deathbed, and we made laws where you can't have your family on your side. Absolutely not. We are smart people. If you have a high risk, you know, I'm not going to go out to the bar. I'm not going to go to a crowded place. I'm going to stay home. You want to wear a mask, you want to wear 3 masks, wear a mask. It's up to the company. If it's a company, it's their decision. If it's anywhere in public, you are a free citizen of the United States of America. Nobody should be able to tell you that you have to obey by their rules. And we say, well, there's a lot we didn't know. There's a lot we did know. And what we also know is it was variant after variant. Now it's monkeypox. What else is around the corner? It's been 2 years. Get on with our lives. If you elect me, I will not be coming to your business, giving you a sign and telling you to tell people you have to mask up when you come into your house. It's political theater at this point. Nobody wants to talk about the masks don't do anything. Make your own decision. Live your own life. Be free. Thank you for the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Brett?
Thank you. I kind of have feelings both ways with some of the comments. You look at things, but we don't. We're free country, but we still have to get a driver's license. We still got to stop at stop signs. We still got to obey laws to have a safety issues and a life that's not in danger. Gun laws and everything else. So I look at working on restrictions. You look at public safety. So I would look at. We have to protect our firefighters, our police officers, our street department workers. One deal during COVID we were down to 5 guys on snow plowing for a blizzard. So we had lost about 5 other guys that were sick home with COVID or restrictions. So I look at, I guess the public can have if they want to wear a mask, that's their thing. But I guess when I look at our employees that are working for us, if it's a highly pandemic and they're telling us that restrictions of wearing a mask is going to help them life and safety, and it'll help protect our residents, and then we can keep still the essential functions going. I feel that I'm making our employees not mandate it, but asking them to wear one would be my choice. And I guess businesses would have their own choice of how they wanted to run their business and what restriction of hours and what they wanted to do.
Okay, well, it is 1 minute to 7 I have or so. So that will be the close of this forum. Lisa, did you have something to say at all?
Just thank you, everybody, for coming, and thank you to the candidates for your willingness to participate. And the vote is on June 14th.
Yep. Again, thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you to the candidates, and have a safe trip home. Thank you.